Forearm grip training frequency. Can you do daily like calves? You could do it daily like calves. I don't think I would recommend you train anything daily. The conventional fitness and bodybuilding wisdom is that smaller muscle groups like the calves, sometimes the forearms, and the abdominals can be trained daily. But what makes a muscle grow, regardless of muscle fiber type, whether it's more slow twitch dominant or fast twitch dominant, is you're creating the stimulus with what you do in the gym, but then you grow during recovery. So I know there's a stigma that calves are a stubborn muscle group and you have to train them daily to really get them to grow. But I look at them the same way I look at any other muscle group. Train them hard, train them heavy, and then you have to give them time to recover. Going back to, I think 1981, or sorry, no, even earlier, in 1979, so Frank Zane ended up winning the 1979 Olympia. He was in the light heavyweight class, and Mike Mentzer was in the heavyweight class. There was over 200 and under 200 pound weight classes. Mentzer ended up winning the pre-judging, but then lost at the evening show. And even after that competition, Zane solicited Mike for advice on growing his calves. And Mike basically recommended that Frank reduce his volume and frequency down to, I think, 3 days a week compared to what Frank was training them. And Frank, for the 81 Olympia, 1980, because they skipped the 81. Frank Zane in the 1980 Olympia credited Mike Mentzer's tips for helping him grow a half inch on his calves. So I actually think most people that are struggling to develop bigger calves, it makes sense in a certain way that we think we need to give them more training volume and frequency, but I think in a lot of ways that's hindering growth and that's hindering progress. So I don't give calves any more volume or any more frequency that I do any other muscle group. The same fundamental principles that cause one muscle group to grow, I think, applies to other muscle groups, regardless of muscle fiber composition. As far as when I train forearm or grip work, I do it relatively instinctually. So depending on my workout split, right now I'm doing a push-pull leg split, but for clients that I have, or on the rare chance that I do full body workouts, I'll just kind of mix in a number of kind of accessory movements as I feel necessary for that day. And those accessory movements might be neck flexion or extension, lateral flexion, some direct lower back work, abdominal work, forearm flexion, extension, grip work, or possibly dorsiflexion for the calves, which is just pulling your toe upwards. I work those relatively infrequently, but if it's an area that you want to bring up, I would probably, do forearm and grip work on the days that you do your back movements. If you have a pushing movement or more of a chest day, the forearms aren't really going to get a lot of direct work that day. So I think it makes more sense to lump those muscle groups onto the tail end of your back or your biceps workouts. And grip work doesn't have to be overly complicated. I highly recommend time static contractions for 90 seconds doing grip work, and I'll put out a time static contraction video soon. But basically, you're gradually increasing the effort that you're exerting over certain time intervals so that you're reaching a point after about 90 seconds where you're squeezing something as hard as you possibly can. So I would lump however frequently you're doing back or biceps, I would probably just add some degree of wrist flexion, some wrist extension, and grip work on the tail end of that workout. Hope that answers your question.